Hello, welcome to the Walk of Kings, Episode 4, City of Bells, in which we discuss The Way of Kings, Chapter 3, City of Bells. I think I got all that right.
Kind of self-explanatory there, isn't it?
Yeah. And how are you tonight, my brother?
Doing pretty okay. Had a nice gym session today. Did a little bit of a hike on Saturday, so a little sore, but still lifted some weights, still did some cardio. Now we're talking about a book.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So for you
Alrighty,
today will
so-
be kind of a gym and talk X.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh boy. Okay.
I'm sorry. So yeah, we're talking about Chapter 4, and
Hey,
this is
to be fair, that awful pun was entirely within character for this chapter.
It is, because we're talking about the first Shallan chapter today. A controversial character, because, she's a lady. And also
I don't
is
think
written...
that's the only reason.
no, but it's the
why
main
she's-
reason. You
It's
can't deny that
one
it's
of
the
the
main
reasons.
reason.
Yeah.
She is
No,
also...
it's-
she is also written to be clever and witty. No, she's not. I don't think she's written to be insufferable. I think she is at her worst insufferable because Brandon wrote her to be clever and witty, and this is not a phase in his career where he was very good at that, as we see with the character literally named Wit in this same book.
Yeah, but he's doing it ironically.
That doesn't make it any better.
It doesn't, but it's an excuse people make, so I don't know.
I would also argue that Shallan her writing in this area gets better much faster than Wit's does, which may be due to Wit doing it, ironically. But then whenever
I would
Shallan's
agree
talking
with
to
that,
Wit,
yeah.
it's just insufferable because he brings out the worst in her. But I think we're supposed
Yeah.
to see it as something that's clever and awesome, but also like one of the better conversations in the whole series, I think, was between the two of them when Shallan was at her. I think I'm thinking of Oathbringer near the end, maybe like both when Kaladin and Shallan are both pretty much at their lowest. Wit does have some good conversations with them. He also has some annoying conversations with Kaladin when he's at his lowest. It's just kind of whenever somebody's in the depths of this despair, Wit comes along, and sometimes it's nice and sometimes it's not.
I mean, it's really only Shallan and Kaladin that he does this to. Like,
That's right. Doesn't he do it to Dalinar?
I mean,
Or
the
does
most that he does with
Dalinar
Dalinar,
like roll his eyes because it literally doesn't work on Dalinar, and then Wit stops?
yeah, the most we get with Wit and Dalinar is when Dalinar's about to talk about like his visions at the big feast, the king's feast, and Wit is like, "Oh, there's danger in the air, Colin. You must be careful." And Dalinar's like, "Yeah, I'm a Colin.
I'm
We're
aware.
at war. This
I'm at
is
dinner."
dangerous." And Wit's like, "All right, well, I guess I'm gonna leave. The world might explode, but I can't do anything to stop it." And he's like, "Wit, you are not my favorite person. You can leave." And that is exactly what happens.
Yeah,
So,
which we'll get to in not too many chapters
yeah.
from now.
not too many. But yeah, I believe it is my turn to give the kind of synopsis of the chapter, and then we'll
Yes.
chat over a couple things. Because this is a character introduction chapter, there's not necessarily a whole ton of like complex. Well, it's a Shallan chapter, so there's not a ton of complex moving pieces anyway. But it's her first chapter. We're getting accustomed to a couple different things, so it's pretty straightforward. City of Bells. This character, Shallan, who is in universe a 13-year-old nobility princess, only daughter of a lower middle, powerful upper family in the Vaden kingdom. What's the country? Is it just Vadenar?
I think so.
Okay. Anyway, so she, the
Carbranth? Sorry.
yes, Carbranth. No, Carbranth is the city of bells. Yaakovin.
Yeah,
She's from
Yaakovin.
Yaakovin. She's got red hair. She's got freckles, pale skin. very in contrast with the tall, tanned Alethi people around. So she arrives on a merchant ship that serves her family.
So
They've
just
been
a
giving her rides.
real quick clarification. She's not 13, she's 17 at this point. I believe she's 13 in her
really?
flashback chapters. And then that's 17 in Roshar years, which I don't remember what that translates to in human years. It's, I think, around 20-ish. Like, she's basically just a little bit younger than Kaladin, right?
I'm going to check this real quick because...
Coppermine says at age 17 she left to seek apprenticeship under Yasna Kol.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. She does not... Okay, so because of various
Sorry to
reasons, she
interrupt you.
really does not... No, it's fine.
Yeah, Kaladin's 3 years older than her.
Yeah. Because of various things, she reads as a very immature person because she is a very immature person. But she arrives to this city, Carbronth, also called the City of Bells, on a ship, on a merchant ship that serves her family. She has been chasing this character, Yasna Kolin. Yasna is the older sister of the king of Alethkar. She is brilliant, and she is a heretic, which are both very large pieces of her character.
And that's Yasna, not Shallan.
That is Yasna, not Shallan. Shallan, we have, I think, 3 or 4 different mentions of her beliefs and her being... a believer in the Almighty. She thanks the Almighty when they land. So she is written as right now to be a very pious kind of, well, not pious, just very strong kind of traditionally, religious kind of person. She arrives
She's
on the
set
docks.
up to be a foil to Yasna, who is the heretic. So they'll have a lot of contrasts and clashes once they start interacting later on.
She arrives on the docks with a couple of merchants. She hops on a little pulled cart, and she is brought to this building called the Palaneum, which is essentially the equivalent of the Library of Alexandria, where all knowledge in the continent is written down and held. And we get a little bit of back and forth with her, one of the sailors, and the guy pulling the cart. And she goes into the Palaneum looking for Yasna, and a servant brings her to Yasna's little cubicle that she's at. And that is basically the end of the chapter.
Yes. It's not much happens here. It's a lot of little world building details which are mostly localized
Scene
around
setting,
it's, and some of it's repetition of stuff we've already seen, particularly around their faith. We're introduced to a couple different cultures that contrast with the Alethi, because up till now we've pretty much been focusing on Alethi society and norms, between the feast scene, where even though we were from the perspective of somebody who doesn't belong to the Alethi culture, we're still pretty much just thinking about what that character thinks about Alethi culture. And then we get Kaladin,
Who is
for
Alethi,
multiple
very
scenes,
Alethi.
who is very Alethi. He's like a representation of half of all the Alethi in representing the Dark Eyes in the story.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing these Thalen merchants, and we're getting a hint of their religion of the passions, and we're also seeing some of this culture of this independent city-state, which will of Carbronth, which arguably one of the 2 most important cities in the entire series, alongside Urithiru. Although
I would agree, and honestly, I don't. Sorry.
A lot of what I have in mind that would make it the most important is how much Carbronth means to Taravangian, who later, this is a reminder that this podcast is very spoilery for the entire series. So this is your chance to dip out now. 3, 2, 1. Taravangian, who is the ruler of Carbronth, eventually ascends to become the Shard of Odium, and yet his entire motivation and everything that drives him is trying to protect the people of the planet in general, but he has a very soft spot for Carbronth and its people, which is something he sees as like a great weakness of himself, but it is ultimately the thing that keeps him human and continues informing his relationship with the rest of the world. So for what Carbronth means to Taravangian and his motivations, who becomes pretty much the big villain of the series, that's what I think makes it one of the two most important cities.
Yeah. I would add that in terms of like this chapter kind of scene setting quite a bit, I don't mind it as much because for a lot of the time that we know Shallan, like probably the first quarter of the book is entirely within Carbronth, right?
Yeah, it's nice to spend this time setting a scene we're going to spend a lot of time in.
Yeah, she does her scholar stuff here. I
mean, the entire first book she spends here.
Yeah, the first part.
They don't even leave until book 2, right? She's still here at the beginning of book 2.
Yeah, I believe that is correct.
So it's not until like not even. I think it's like halfway through book 2, in fact, that they even leave, because that's when they set off on the ship. Oh no, we begin book 2 with her on the ship where she dives overboard. So I'm misremembering. It's pretty much just the entirety of this. Sail? I think that's is it? I think that's the ship in the story.
That's the name of the movie. You're right. I don't remember what the name of the book is.
Well, it would be the ship that we have mentioned in this chapter, because she takes his ship back, right?
Well, no, she goes with Yasna.
The Wind's Pleasure?
Back toward, the Wind's Pleasure. I don't remember, honestly.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually. It's okay. She is definitely in this chapter, in this book, on the Wind's Pleasure. Because as you mentioned, these are sailors who have worked for her father in the past, and they're kind of as a favor to her family's patronage, taking her on this wild goose chase. And we can see in the conversation Shallan and the sailors have with each other, they really don't have any respect for her. Not that they're treating her like, not that they're being belligerent or treating her poorly, but they're treating her very much like a rich little child who just needs to be what's
coddled.
the word I'm looking for? Just humored. They're just kind of humoring whatever she wants so that she'll get bored of it and go home eventually. And
maybe pay them some money.
Oh yeah, well yeah, because sure, her family gives them all the money. And this is something that'll come into play at the beginning of the second book, where Yasna's like, "Why are you letting these people treat you like anybody when you're supposed to be using your
nobility,
your air of authority and nobility to convince people through how you carry yourself and blah 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 blah." But at this point, Shallan is very much the kind of person they think she is. She is very sheltered. She's lived on her family's estate her entire life up to this point, which I believe in human years would translate to about 20. She's really just had tutors and her brothers as the people in her life.
She admits in this chapter that she has never used money to pay for things before she left on her journey.
And she has been... Sorry.
No, you're good.
She has been trained in all the scholarly and artistic arts, because in this world, only women are allowed to read and write. So she has had an education that her brothers haven't had, that her father relied on her for a lot of stuff for business. And we'll learn later that he had, the same clerks that all of these upper echelon people did. So there's a lot of the family secrets that Shallan wasn't aware of until recently. But
Yeah.
there's also a lot of family secrets that Shallan is deeply entrenched with. Some of which we'll learn later, she's repressed the memories of. Some of which she's just kind of keeping from the reader right now, but she is very much has in mind. And it's interesting that we end this chapter with her. We don't know what her full plans and intentions are for the future, but we do know that she has a letter in her hand that Yasna Kolin sent her telling her to come here and become her ward. And so we at least have a strong direction forward of Shallan's trying to find this person in this new city where all this stuff is happening. In another young adult fantasy book, you might just see this as the first chapter of that book. So it's interesting that we're getting this kind of more ordinary chapter now after all of these prologues and
After the first
Kaladin stuff.
four prologue chapters.
We go from Kaladin having crippling depression in a cage to start of a bright, happy, adventurous story with Shallan, which doesn't stay that way, but that's how it's presented here.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think that Shallan having a pretty clear trajectory ahead helps, especially because
what that will entail.
Correct. Especially to keep us hooked because we bounce right back into a Kaladin chapter next.
Right.
Which is fantastic. So Shallan, so you said that there was a goal of hers that she's kind of keeping from the reader. What is that big goal that she's keeping that we're going to find out the next time that we encounter her?
The big goal is she's trying to steal Shallan. She's trying to steal Yasna Kolin's Soulcaster, which is an artifact that uses Stormlight-infused gems like the ones that we saw Zeth drawing the Stormlight from to power his abilities. Soulcasters are artifacts that use that same Stormlight to transmute one material into another. Shallan's family has maintained their riches so far by using a Soulcaster to transmute, I think, just regular rock into precious materials. Recently, that Soulcaster broke. And the person who knew how to use it died, I believe, who was a servant of their family. And so Shallan is in a last desperate hope to try to keep her family from insolvency. She's trying to go find Yasna Kolin, who is a known user of a Soulcaster, and steal it with the inside position of wanting to be her apprentice, her ward, which would be a very normal sort of thing to happen in this setting. Not knowing that Yasna is leading her on a wild goose chase and has no intention of actually taking her on.
Because Yasna is really smart, but she's also kind of cruel to the people around her because she looks down on everybody. Now, what's interesting is the fact that Yasna uses, the fact that Yasna uses a Soulcaster ties into her clear status as being a religious heretic, because traditionally in the religion of Alethkar and just Vorinism is that Soulcasters are seen as very sacred things that regular people will never actually see. We see later on in the book on the Shattered Plains, somebody, I think Kaladin, seeing a procession of people going to soulcast some just food, rocks into food or something like that, and it's a group of people carrying poles that have fabric wrapped around it, so it's basically almost like a mobile papal box, and the soulcaster walks inside the box so regular people never see their face or the soulcaster itself, and it's very revered people who are trained and can use a soulcaster. So the fact that Shallan's family has one is in itself, if that was to be known to people that they have a soulcaster and like have had people use it outside of the Vaden belief system, would be incredibly scandalous. And
Yeah, I think it's
Yasna,
said that Alethkar could potentially like make a claim that it's a national treasure of theirs
yeah,
due to it being
it's
so closely associated with their nation and religion. It kind of
yeah,
reminds
it's
me of the like the Navigators Guild in Dune, how they as we see,
pretty similar.
soulcasters are not just these objects, but they're also soulcaster refers to the people who use these objects. And as you use a soulcaster more, it actually transmutes your own body. And part of the reason that you would be covered up from public eyes is not just out of reverence, but so people can't see that you have, I don't know, melting flesh or that you've been transmuted into
smoke for face.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But this is not something that has happened to Yasna, which is
correct.
honestly we learn the truth faster than the mystery becomes relevant. But it would be a neat mystery if it had gone on for longer.
Actually, that is a very good point. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that previously. The fact that Yasna uses it and is a known user of it, and like
which she gets away
nobody
with despite not being a member of the guild because she's she's of the royal family. She can do whatever she wants. She doesn't care what the church says. She sure doesn't care what the Soulcasters as an organization have to say about it.
and as it comes to find out, it's not actually the artifact itself that is doing the soul casting in Yasna's case, or eventually Shallan's case. Yasna is a knight radiant. She's one of the Elf Scholars. Shallan is a light weaver, and both of those orders share the ability to soul cast just with Stormlight.
Though they have, it's interesting that we'll come to see they have their own strengths. They can transmute things differently, and this is something interestingly though Yasna is so arrogant and high and mighty and constantly searching for more information. It's interesting that she doesn't really understand this difference for quite a while, which we'll get to eventually. And for now, Shallan does not know that she has any powers.
No. It's interesting if Shallan had come to Yasna and after she first started experiencing like radiant powers, like being able to see the cryptics and soul casting, if she had just told Yasna what was going on early, so much friggin' headache and pain would have been avoided.
Maybe.
But,
I kind of feel like Yasna would have probably just assumed that she was a spy if she had been much more forthcoming about it. But maybe she would
potentially so.
In a hypothetical, idealized situation, you could argue that if both had been in the perfect state of mind in the perfect circumstances, and Shallan had just been able to give that information right away, it might have saved a lot of headaches. It might have not taught Shallan the important and traumatizing lessons she needs to learn in this book. But in this idealized situation, she would have had plenty of time to learn some more traumatizing lessons in future.
Gotta love trauma in the way of kings. So that's kind of the Soulcaster stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to think, we, like you said before, we do encounter some different nationalities of people. We've got the Thalens, who are the merchants. They're kind of typecast as merchants across the board.
Yeah.
Which
we
is
very
until
I mean, even in Oathbringer, lots of people they are too hat culture stereotyped for a lot of people. I think it works fine in Oathbringer for my tastes. Up to that
there's
point,
a lot of stuff going on in Oathbringer, so having
I do like
groups of people.
Queen Fen and her interactions with Dalinar.
She's great.
But we
is-
don't get to see her for a while.
Yeah. So we get the Thalens, we get the Natan people who have slightly blue skin. And interestingly, she says that they wear like heavy leather gloves or something like that. I'm trying to remember why they would be wearing gloves specifically.
Yeah, I don't
So,
think
the
that's anything
Natan
that I ever
people-
knew.
Let me look it up.
Coppermine says they are human and Sia-Amian hybrids. I don't know what the Sia-Amian are, except that
Amians.
they're Amians.
They're Axes the Collector.
Oh, gotcha.
They
That
can
still doesn't
change
tell
the
me much, but I know who he is.
Okay. Amians can change the composition of their bodies. Some Amians interact with the sleepless, which are the groups of people that are made out
Gotcha.
of little bugs. But yeah, Sia Amians are blue skin, deep blue nails, and they can change markings on their bodies.
So they're
Axes the Collector
They're just rock people.
they are
They're they're
not rock people because rock people would be the people from the peaks. Because
so we
they
have
are
multiple rock people.
Yes,
They're
exactly.
the Crystallians.
They are the Crystallians. Yeah, so I guess I don't 100% know why they would be wearing gloves in this case, but that's what Shallan sees, so that's what we get. And yeah, that's kind of the groups of people that we get.
Yeah.
She sees a master servant. Other than that, it's kind of
Master
pretty
servants
straightforward.
Totally not just from Mistborn. Totally not just terrace stewards.
Oh yeah, the terracemen.
Yeah.
So yeah, there were a couple of different kind of world building things that I picked up on listening. We get a little bit more discussion. Well, not discussion, I guess. A little bit more information about money and like the size and kind of characteristics of money. This
it is
the
handy
first chapter
that we have a
that
character
we
who knows
hear-
like nothing about money to get some more explanation about.
Yes. Yeah, it's this is the first time that we hear somebody refer to a colored sphere as relating to an element. So she gives somebody a ruby mark and he says, "Oh, a fire mark, huh?" And it's just a neat little bit of world building because like later on in the book, somebody is given a sapphire brome and they go, "Oh, water brome, I think, or something like that." And then, diamond marks are called sky marks. I don't think emeralds have a special name to them.
I don't think
do
so.
they?
I
Just a
only
casual-
ever remember Fire Mark and Sky Mark.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are other names. It's neat to have these little nicknames that people would use, these bits of slang. It makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool. We talked last time a little bit, I think, about having the word like bug or beetle or insect be in the
And we did
chapter.
get confirmation from Brando that yes, there are insects, and Kremling refers to both tiny crabs and to actual insects, which I still think is a little
we get a
weird,
reference. We get a reference to rats, rodents specifically, in this
Interesting.
chapter. And further on, we do get some references to minks, which is also
and mink is
a
something
kind of
that
rodent.
recurs very frequently.
Far more often than rat.
I don't think minks are rodents. I think they're mustelids. The same as like badgers and ferrets and skunks.
Oh yeah, they are musteli.
But we hear of people, I think, using mink both to hunt and also for their pelts very frequently, which would
Mink
make
can
sense.
eat
And
crayfish.
I bless their hearts. I'm glad they try. They deserve it. And,
That is very interesting.
and this is
Can
beginning the
rats eat
pattern of the
crustaceans?
handful of like human Earth animals that are on Roshar, because a lot of animals were brought over from the planet that humans came from with the humans, and for the most part, they just couldn't adapt to the very alien environments on Roshar, and so most of them died out. There are still some human animals, mostly that live in the Shin homeland, but the ones that are seen in other places, apparently rats. I guess I'm not surprised by that because rats are good at thriving and surviving.
Yeah.
And I
There
guess where there's rats, I
there
guess mink also.
there is actually a group of semi-aquatic rodents that are all called crab-eating rats
That's
that are
super
rats
cool.
that eat crabs. So, either Brandon did his homework or he just
Yep.
threw a dart and it hit the dartboard. But that is cool. I was not aware of that before.
That makes sense.
But that is something that I picked up on because like it tends to stand out to me when we get normal Earth animal references. Like horses is kind of one
Yeah.
thing because they're knights on armor. They're going to ride horses. It's not necessarily that out of the
Animals
ordinary to
that
think that there would be
it
horses.
turns out are well adapted to living on plains, so long as you have food for them.
Yeah,
And we can soul
you got
cast it, and they can still eat
hogs,
grass.
right?
Yeah,
We
and it
we
turns out that the hogs are like the only animal that they really use as like a meat livestock animal. They milk the hogs and eat them, I believe.
they have mutton too, don't they?
Maybe I don't remember having seen it. I think maybe the Shin have sheep.
Oh,
I don't think
pork.
anybody else
Sorry,
does.
it's pork steaks that Dalinar eats in his flashback.
Yes.
Some reason I thought it was mutton. But yeah, that kind of jumped out at me as being one of the Earth things that crosses over.
Yep. And it's mentioned later, like, oh,
Trying to think.
we have the term like axe hounds, but many years ago there were actual hounds. And Kaladin's like, wow, that doesn't
just
sound
died
believable at
because-
all. Yeah,
They had skin and feet. Trying to think. I think the only other thing world building wise that jumped out at me is Shallan makes a reference to the devotees.
yes.
As
She
having
mentions your calling and your glory or whatever it is.
Yes. Yeah. Calling and glory. We hear references to somebody's calling very frequently.
Yeah.
Well, I say very
In this
frequently. Yes, in this book, very frequently. But your glory is something that is really only meant like 3 times, maybe, including
I
this
think you're
time. It's just interesting that one of these things.
Yeah,
is
and your
referenced a lot more
glory
than the
is
other.
like the virtue that you try to live toward, right? Your
Yeah,
calling
so
is
your-
like your
your-
trade. Your glory is one of your, Sephiroth virtues.
Yeah, I think so. Shallan's calling is natural history, I think, and her glory is it's like sincerity or something like that. I don't remember, but
None of which matter once we realize that
Oh, yeah,
Vorinism is a lie, and so the characters no longer care about
honor
any
is
of this.
dead.
Yeah, unfortunately. But Dalinar
Yeah,
thinks a
it's-
bit about it, Adolin thinks a bit about it, and Shallan thinks a bit about it. I think those are really the only 3 characters that are really concerned with it. Mostly because...
Yeah.
And, I mean, Yasna a little bit also because the devotees will try to convince her to join them by trying to appeal to her nature by saying, like, oh, your calling could be blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
And she's
they're
like,
they're really
no.
just trying to get to her soulcaster more than likely. But yeah,
And also
that's
the prestige
kind of what I got for the.
converting the noted atheist princess. There's also the element
funny how
of
churches do that.
oof, yeah. There's also the I mean, we mentioned the not very great clever dialogue, but we get a pretty long conversation, relatively speaking, kind of as an initial introduction of Shallan conversing with the sailors. And we did mention that the sailors, like, they don't really respect her. They're just humoring her. There's a little bit of an element in that of them kind of just putting up with her supposedly clever dialogue. But a lot of it is also, I really get the sense that Brando is setting up this conversation where he's trying to say, like, oh, look at these sailors who, you know, they're not necessarily super clever themselves, but they delight in cleverness in other people. And so I can show that Shallan is really smart and clever by just having her make all this wordplay. But I'm also going to show that she's like bashful. And it's like, this is really obnoxious to read, especially as the very first thing we get from this character.
All right. I was trying to not complain about it too much because it's a thing that people don't like Shallan. All right. Oh my lord. Shallan's wittiness and cleverness. Okay. Here's the thing. Definitely the first, maybe a good amount into the second time that I went through this book, I really did not like Shallan, especially early Shallan, because of how much every single interaction that she has to have this level of something. Like, Yalb is like, you know, Yalb, the captain of the ship that she's on, warns her about going into the city and trusting people too easily. He's like, "Oi, lady, you be careful and keep your wits about you." And she's like, "I do believe I would rather keep my wits in my head,
Jordan
good
Peterson
sailor, because if my wits were about me, then someone would have taken liberty to my skull with a cudgel." And he's like, "Oh." But good lord.
If this was middle grade, this would be perfectly fine. If this was young adult, it would still be a little cringy, but it would be fine. Like, Artemis Fowl is full of this kind of stuff, and I love it there. I think it works perfectly fine there because it's made for, like, 12-year-old boys.
Artemis Fowl is also a dick to the people around him. Yeah. Markedly a dick.
Well, I don't just mean him in particular. Just the books in general
the writing
are full
style.
of it. But that's not... We went from a boy like, oh no, I can't murder the slaver who just murdered a man in front of me. That makes me sad. to like an Artemis Fowl dialogue scene.
To the captain being like, "Oh, my lady, you are looking fine fine and bright like a sunshine this morning. You have blessed this trip because we arrived quickly." And she's like, "Well, good captain, that implies that the other times that we have not arrived quickly, it is because I have not been beautiful. So I am beautiful precisely 1/6 of the time."
And he's like, captain just dies a little inside, but has to pretend. No, in actuality, we're supposed to take it that he actually finds this really funny. But, you know, I like to imagine that he's actually dying a little
all
inside.
of the other sailors in earshot, like, this was a certified and they all clapped moment.
Yeah.
Right? It definitely dials back as her character goes on.
Especially as Yasna does not want to put up with it at all.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you, Yasna. It is nice that, like, when Yasna shows up, we have someone who is pushing back on it a bit. And Yasna is like, you'll be like, "Oh, I don't want you to not have the clever thoughts. I just want you to turn your brain to something other than just trying to think of what will get the whole squad laughing 24/7. Because as much as you want to, you know, apologize and say you're sorry, you still keep saying things in front of, you know, rulers and dignitaries
every single
that
person.
You really should stop doing." And she does get better at it as time goes on, but that's not this chapter.
Now, I understand, right, and I've had this conversation with different people, yourself included, that Shallan's history is, the only daughter of a guy with extraordinary anger issues who abuses every single person in his
Yeah.
house, whether it be physically or mentally.
She developed this as a
And
survival mechanism to defuse her dad's anger and to make her brothers
yes,
laugh and to pretend that
yes,
everything was okay when everything was constantly not okay for many, many
right.
years. It's all perfectly justified. It all makes perfect sense, but you still have to read this chapter as your first Shallan chapter. It's
You
kind of
do.
like with
And
Kaladin. His crippling depression makes perfect sense, and it's still a bit of a slog in a different way.
yeah, I I think it is historically it's easier for me to not get annoyed at the Kaladin chapters
Yeah.
because I struggled pretty heavily with depression for a while. Certainly very happy to not be as deeply in that these days, but I have not had the experience of needing to be the Tumblrina
Oof.
doing the listen. Am I wrong? Am I
Uh,
wrong that
I don't
Shallan's
think it's a
dialogue
particular. I
is
don't think it's a particularly Tumblr thing because it lacks the very vital element of her being a hero standing up for other people in the face of
okay?
bigotry
That's
and
fair.
having everybody literally clap. I see what you're saying though, and maybe that's like I
Yeah.
can relate to both that depression angle for Kaladin, and I can also relate to being a smart ass know it all, sheltered idiot child with no social skills for very good reasons who makes a fool of himself in front of other people and also happily absorbs the attention of immature, idiotic adults who think that you're mature because you agree with their beliefs on stuff. So, like,
We we were
I can see
homeschooled
both.
in case anybody doesn't know. We were very homeschooled.
So which Shallan
So
also was. So there is an element where I do see my
yeah,
past
fair
self
enough.
in Shallan, and not that she and I necessarily went in the same direction as life went on, but I do have that bit of empathy for her alongside Kaladin, and honestly more so than Kaladin because I don't have that drive of his to always be trying to protect everybody always, which like a lot of the people who I know who love Kaladin in like other communities that we've been a part of who they'll talk about how much they love him and they'll also talk about how much they see themselves in him and like deeply resonate with that element of needing to be the savior and the hero all the time, and that's not something that I can relate to.
Yeah, fair
It's
enough.
other elements of Kaladin that I deeply empathize
Yeah.
with.
I think that honestly that is part of why I identify with Kaladin a lot stronger is during the whole divorce stuff. I was unfortunately having to be the adult in the room for so much of that time
Yeah.
and not having the option to not do that.
Yep.
That's some very internal
Yeah.
internal kind of stuff. But yeah. So anyway,
Which is definitely something Kaladin has to deal with over and over again.
yes.
But yeah, so even though I can recognize Shallan's negative elements here, she still remains pretty much my favorite character. I think almost all the actual hate for her is idiotic. I don't think that's what you have for her as a character.
No, I'm especially since we and some other people and myself have had discussions about Shallan that kind of made me consider more of her backstory and how
Yeah.
her kind
None
of
which you
no
have in this chapter.
filter. Right. Yeah. You have none of that. But having that information and thinking on it, I don't hate her totally as a character. I absolutely hate her characterization in these early chapters
Yeah, that's very
because
fair.
she acts insufferable. Like, I don't know if there is more than 2 sentences between each of her witty quips in
Yeah.
this chapter. And that
I
is
would not
pretty
be
much only
surprised.
when that's pretty much only when she's on the porter's frickin'
And even
chair
then,
thing.
it's like, oh, he's asking if you want the short way around or the long way around, but I don't know what's the difference. And Shallan's like, well, I assume one of them's longer than the other.
And he's like,
I mean, granted, that is also something I would literally say in real life.
yeah.
If someone asked me that.
To
But
be fair,
in the context of the rest of the chapter, it's still it's the feather that broke the Chull's back. If other people didn't actively react like it was the funniest thing ever, and it was just like multiple characters doing this back and forth, it would be almost approaching like Terry Pratchett. If it was like being written as almost like a routine, like it's a bit between multiple characters instead of one person doing
like,
stand-up
yeah.
and then the author telling us that his stand-up was really funny by having everybody else be the audience laughing about it.
Sure, like maybe previously, Shallan did this within her family as the defense thing, but maybe Yalb, the captain, like happened to think that he was a funny guy too. So throughout the journey, he like coaxed her out of her kind of antisocial shell by cracking jokes with her.
Yeah, that would have been sweet.
And
that would have
that's
been
why
funny.
she's comfortable.
That's not what happened.
That is not what we got, though.
But later on, when Shallan is in Dalinar's court, I find it really funny that we are constantly getting moments where it's like that meme from the B movie where the one character says something while looking off screen, and then her boyfriend turns and stares at her with this expression of, I have no idea what you just said. It's constantly Shallan saying something that she thinks is witty, and Dalinar just kind of having a stroke. Like, you need a straight man to counter your character who's supposed to be witty. You need that dynamic, and we don't have that here.
You either need somebody...
Or two characters playing off each other.
Yeah, exactly. You either need two characters who are playing off of each other, and you get an actual dynamic there where they are...
Some kind of Shakespeare
like you said,
thing.
it's like a routine where they're bouncing off each other. Or you have her doing her thing, and Kaladin looks at her, and he's like, man, you are insufferable, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like, nothing you just said makes sense, and you're just saying these things to crack jokes.
Yeah.
So,
and
it must suck to be you, doesn't it?
It does, definitely. She tries to avoid being herself whenever possible.
Through multiple ways.
And I guess that's kind of the characters playing off each other is how we get some of the better scenes with her and Wit. Sometimes it's a little corny and on the nose, and even it's like, okay, Brando, maybe it's better that you didn't try to have the sailor back in your first book trying to play off her here, because you probably would have just made it even more cringe than it already is. But sometimes we do get them playing off each other in a way that's fun to read later on, several books from now. So Brando just kind of develops that ability to strike the balance a little bit better. Not that it'll ever be enough for the Shallan haters. But,
I certainly agree that people who hate Shallan because she is a female character in this fantasy war story are far off the mark, and I do not consider myself within their group.
Yeah.
I do not dislike Shallan because she is a girl or because she has girl perspective on things. I dislike her because her character in the beginning of the book is very dislikable.
Do you think that she is the most disliked character in the series? And if so, who would you think would be the second most hated? If not, who do you think is the most hated? I think she is, in large part because she's a main character. In series that have like multiple viewpoint protagonists, you do usually have the most hated character is usually. I guess there's Moash, and like that's a different kind of hate. Like people actually kind of like Moash because he's a character who's very hateable. Like he kind of exists to be a hater. Yeah, that too.
Yeah, he's the understandable bad guy.
This series.
Not gonna say that joke because
Yeah, don't do that.
Man, who is the most hated in Stormlight? That is a good question. Out of
In
the
terms of
couple of
people just
people,
like in terms of people being like, oh, I can't believe I have to read a chapter from this perspective, focusing on this character, not in a not so much in a like I actually legitimately can write you an essay of the reasons why this is a character you should hate because he caused all of this.
I would say maybe Venli. Although I think volume-wise, more people dislike Shallan.
Yeah.
Mostly because she is a point of view character from the very first book. We don't get Venli until Rhythm of War, really. I mean, she's in Oathbringer, but her point of view stuff is within Rhythm of War.
Even within Rhythm of War, I think people might hate Navani more because there's a common perspective for Rhythm of War that Navani actually has no skills or expertise and just claims to be a scientist while basically being Elon Musk. But suddenly the book tells us she's really good at all this science, and then she just comes up with these very basic ideas that the book presents as meaningful, and we're supposed to believe that nobody ever... And like, I don't know that any of that ever occurred to me. Maybe when I do a reread of that eventually, I should have that in mind and be like watching for it. For what reasons do people hate Venli? This is some discourse I was unaware of.
Yeah. Oh boy. Let me go. And this might be more between myself and people I talk to about Stormlight.
Just because of her being a dirty, rotten traitor who does really dumb things that doom everybody around her?
Not as much. Maybe more so because she dooms her people to be slave to odium.
Yeah.
And then is like, well, I feel bad about it, but like maybe I wasn't maybe actually I don't feel that bad about it. I was in the wrong, oopsie, maybe but, you know. Like a little bit.
Do better next time. Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, every time I see a chapter with Venli or Eshni, Venli is an awful character. Why do you hate Venli? I don't want to read Venli chapters anymore. Venli sucks. Venli's an idiot. Let's see here.
I will say I didn't love chapters from her point of view.
Yeah. I don't. So this person, granted, okay. Disclaimer: this is Reddit. So.
Oh yeah. So they have the worst takes.
Throwing this out there. Her chapters are so difficult to get through. It makes me wonder why. Because they hold up a mirror to our own insecurities. I used to get annoyed with Shallan chapters too. Maybe it's the emotional immaturity. It's so easy to believe we could have done better or different. Okay, so this person is just saying that Venli makes her feel conflicted.
I think it's
fair.
I think it's fair to say that Venli, the reader I think it's fair to say the reader has good reason to expect Venli to know more about how everything works and to make better decisions, given that, we know all the lore of the multiple books and the big picture conflict going up to this point. So it's really hard to look at somebody who's like, surely the Fused have our best interests in mind, and go, no, you idiot. They destroyed your entire people. And like, yeah, maybe she should know better. Yeah, she should know better.
This person is saying instead of understanding why she is jealous of Venli, she trusts Sketchy Spren because she wants the validation. She puts her people in a war of extermination and is happy that they're dying and losing because she's getting the validation that she's right.
Yeah.
I
think that's fair. I never felt angry reading her. I just felt like we were kind of already covering a lot of ground that had already been covered whenever one of her chapters would come up.
And so Venli is she's like a scientist, right? She
I don't think
is
so.
that right? Oh no, Venli was the one that was training to remember the songs from her
Yes,
mother because
when her mom's
Eshonai was
memory
the
was failing,
explorer.
and she was angry
Yes.
that her entire thing is being jealous of Eshonai for everybody loving her, when turns out that Eshonai only ever loved her
Was
sister, and
yeah.
and it's all sad and tragic. Definitely, whenever we had an Eshonai chapter, I was happier about that. we, yeah. Someday I'll reread Rhythm of War. Someday I'll not skim over the Venli chapters as much.
Yeah, this person says a big part of Venli's journey is realizing how badly she messed up, but it's very difficult to support her because until the very end, she maintains that she messed up, but it wasn't that big of a deal and she shouldn't feel that bad about it.
Yeah. Which is not, maybe not the most accurate reckoning of
Yeah.
the situation.
This person says, I feel like not enough people acknowledge that Ulim, which is the odium spren, is manipulative to Venli. Venli is young, jealous, and avoiding responsibility. Ulim came into the situation and got Venli to start a war. He gave her limited knowledge, praised her, promised the literal world to her, but then belittled her and chastised her every time she questioned him. So, like,
And
I
there is
personally
an
don't.
element of it where
Yeah,
their species' cognition, unless they're in like a scientist form, just works differently than humans.
sure.
So it's easy to see her as like extra childish, but that's not. That's just they just kind of have different ways of thinking if they're not in a very thinking specialized form, which makes it easy for for the odium spren to take advantage of them.
Yeah, it's.
I don't
I
know.
will
That I
say
kind of feel like
just
I'm reaching for excuses, but I also just don't. I don't care for her also, so I'm not trying that hard.
in my time reading Rhythm of War, when it got to her point of view chapters outside of the flashback, some of the flashback stuff was very interesting because it was some of the limited first person stuff we get about the singer culture.
Yes.
But her chapters while she's in Urithiru during the occupation are just not the best. Just like pacing is slows down
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Well, that's just the
She's
book in
trying to
general.
get that is just the book in general. She's trying to get like the couple of people who want to keep their culture alive like
Yeah.
out to safety, and she's disgusted with them because they're displaying human tendencies, but these people have been human slaves
Right.
for generations.
She's passing on the
And
abuse that she has received and is oblivious to the
yeah,
fact that she needs to do better. And
yeah.
it's just like kind
So
of cringy to see that and
yeah,
know that it's not going to change anytime very soon.
yeah. If it's not Venli, I would say maybe Lift would be the second most hated character outside of Shalon.
Gosh, I hope
Just
so. She deserves it.
just Lift is a little insufferable. She is little and she is insufferable, so she's a little insufferable.
She is all of the most annoying character traits Brando has ever written into any character, all lumped into one character.
Yeah, but she gets a special book, so
Yeah, she gets a special book. And like there's a tiny, tiny bit from Lift that I liked. The
Yeah,
like her anime tragic backstory is nice, that she always wanted to she wanted to stay young and be Peter Pan coded because she was separated from her mother, or she lost her mother, and she was like, oh, if I grow up from who I was when I lost her, then she's never going to be able to find me again. And so she's obsessed with remaining the same. But when she goes to the Night Watcher, she thinks she's getting eternal youth, but her blessing is that she will remain like a stalwart what she's told is that she will never change when others around her do, which she thinks means she's not going to grow up, but it means that she's always going to be like the beacon of hope and positivity,
Yeah.
even in the darkest times. And like there is a strong element to that I like. I like that she always breaks the rules, and like she will always be the person to show up and even give Dalinar hope.
Right, yeah,
And
during the
she's
Battle
like
of Thalen Field, right?
She's the like exact counter to grimdarkness. But we also have to put up with her.
She also steals pancakes off tables.
Yeah,
so.
she's always stealing food because that's how she gets her stormlight, and she's always sexually harassing Dalinar. And it's like, okay.
Actually, it's Lifelight. It's not Stormlight.
Oh,
There's
okay. I mean, it is a difference that is probably going to be very meaningful in the next set of books. But it's like otherwise, she's
she
just
also
the most
comments
annoying.
a lot. She comments a lot on Dalinar's butt.
Yeah, he is
like,
Lord
a
Tight
lot.
Butt. That's.
He is Lord Tight Butt. Nobody who people
She will steal
whose
your
butts
curry
are that
and call
tight,
you Lord Tight Butt. That is her role.
If only we could all be such glorious incandescent life forms.
Indeed.
And I think that's what Yoda said in
she has an annoying,
Empire Strikes Back. Right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was word for word. And she has an annoying, speaking of Star Wars, an annoying C-3PO spren who just exists to say, "Oh, I don't know, mistress. It sure seems like you're misusing the sacred gift of incredible power you've been given. Oh, we're going to all these bad things are going to happen."
Name?
Wendell?
What is her frickin'... Yeah, Wendell.
And he's
Okay.
And she thinks
He's a
he's a
cultivation
Voidbringer at
spren.
first. Yeah.
Yeah. She calls him Voidbringer the entire time because she's insufferable.
She's just constantly saying "silence, Voidbringer" with the crab laser eyes.
And she like, if the cross was a thing to these people, she would be making the sign of the cross in front of her as she says "silence, Voidbringer." To be slightly fair to Wendell, he was a gardener. He cultivated chairs before he was chosen to be.
He didn't sign up for this.
He did not sign up for it. So there's a little bit of it. But after like the first, 5 years that he's with Lyft, he probably should like catch on that she
Spren
cares
don't change.
not.
Except for the time they do. That's
All
pretty
the
much
time.
that's pretty much what we're told, right? Spren never change except for the times they do.
Yeah. The Spren don't change.
I mean, if Shallan could be described as a Tumblr character, then Lyft is a fanfiction.net character.
Yes.
She
I will
is
agree
what
with that.
she is what a 14-year-old girl would write as a quirky, funny character after watching too much 80s and 90s anime. And
Yeah, but 80s and 90s anime was so good.
Lyft doesn't appear in this chapter, so I'm happy to be done talking about her for a while.
Thank goodness. Yeah, she's
interesting
she's
how
an
every single one of
interlude.
these characters we've talked about is a girl, though.
Okay. That is not on purpose, and okay.
I'm not pointing any blame. I'm just pointing out a pattern. That's all.
Pattern's a boy.
Now, if we were talking about Mistborn, then I would say Wayne is my most hated character,
boy.
but that's for completely different
he's
reasons.
he's just
Mostly the sexual harassment.
Lopin.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly the wanting to watch lesbians make out because he thinks he loves one of them. So
Alongside, until the one book where Brando realizes that he really shouldn't have done any of this, and he has Wayne give an eloquent monologue about how he's not going to bother them anymore.
yeah,
but also Wayne has all of the clever dialogue that is supposed to be taken as clever stuff.
Yeah, that's true. He may have multiple traumatic brain injuries.
Probably.
Yeah. Anyway, City of Bells.
Yep.
It is a chapter. We will talk more on Shallan's wittiness as we encounter it, but that was my discussion on why I really do not like Shallan's witty characterization. And I know that Kaladin is my preferred character in this book, and I know that Shallan is your
Yeah.
preferred character in
It's
the
nice
book.
that we each have a point of view character who's our favorite. That's at least helps things stay balanced.
I
I
mean, I
did-
think we both agree that Dalinar is the best point of view character in the book.
Yeah, in this book, I think it's Dalinar, definitely. We have a lot of strong elements of plot and character and things happening and mystery and fighting scenes. And it helps that he's already in a position of having a lot of resources in a community where he knows everybody. He's entrenched in this community, in this setting. He has pretty much every resource manageable at his disposal, but he has several problems that are still borderline impossible for him to figure out on his own that he's trying to figure out. It puts him in a really interesting position, and he's also a very sincere and honorable character who the people around him respect and, in some cases, fear. And it puts him in a dynamic that has different degrees to it with pretty much everybody in his life. So there's always something interesting that Dalinar can be doing or saying or having happen to him, which is really not the case with Kaladin or Shallan yet. It'll become the case later, but for now, Dalinar is the fully formed character who can go on adventures and investigate mysteries, while Kaladin is the depressed slave who just constantly keeps getting kicked down, and Shallan is the idiot sheltered child who has no idea what she's doing and is constantly trying to prove herself despite not knowing what she has to do it. So yeah, Dalinar's pretty good in this book, and just keeps getting better until maybe until the last book.
Okay. Well, I have not read the last book, and that based on what I've heard, that may be okay.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I can just read the first 3 and be happy with everything that happens, and say, "Wow, I sure am glad Brandon Sanderson didn't write anything further than this in the Stormlight Archives."
And there's some really good bits to it. I'm struggling to remember what they are, in particular, but there are some really good bits to it. I keep thinking, oh yeah, that really good thing happened in that book, and then I remember it actually happened at like the end of Rhythm Before.
I mean, okay, I will say Dalinar's ability to open Honor's perpendicularity is
it loses its luster pretty hard.
Pretty quick, yeah.
Pretty quick.
Nothing will match the first time that he does it on Thalen Field, and the avatar of Odium on planet is afraid because Dalinar is able to directly harness Honor's power throughout all 3 of the realms. So, cool stuff.
Yeah,
love to see it.
Yeah, I think the best part of that final book for me is learning Tanavast's backstory and how he related to Gavilar, not so much as how he relates to Dalinar now. We got a lot of mythology stuff that's explained in Wind and Truth that's told in a really nice way. That is something that I think Brando hits a little bit above not his weight class, but his skill is just a little bit better when he is trying to do this more cosmic, poetic level. It's not on the level of the authors who are actually well known for that sort of thing. But considering the quality of other writing that we see in this book, I really like this epigraph for this chapter. A man stood on a cliffside and watched his homeland fall into dust. The waters surged beneath, so far beneath, and he heard a child crying. They were his own tears. That's a nice little haunting bit of poetry there. And kind of, I think, at least a notch above most of the content in this book.
Yeah.
And
I'd
Brando
agree.
just kind of indulges himself and just keeps writing these little bits, even though they, as we discussed before, I really don't think they contribute that great to the overall story.
Yeah, I would say in terms of the epigraphs, I would say maybe either 25 or 30% of them are like you said, really like hauntingly. They pinprick some emotions. Other ones are like, they're killing me. Oh gods, they're killing me. Please make them stop.
They're killing
Spoken
her,
by a
and then they're going to kill
16-year-old.
me. Oh my almighty.
Spoken by a 16-year-old farmhand who was
Being
bled
pulled
to
apart
death.
by Chulz.
So, could have been a death rattle, could have been an actual scream.
We'll write it down anyway. Yeah. Still the better of the epigraphs, I think, in this whole series. We've already hashed that out. No need to rehash it.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything more you wanted to discuss about this chapter? I think I'm about tapped out.
I don't think so. I think we've kind of chewed through what we have to chew on here.
I found it funny. I think this might be the only... on my Kindle edition, when a lot of people make a highlight, it underlines it. I'm
really?
Just trying to double... Yeah. If you have it set up. And the only line in this chapter that is underlined to show me that lots of people have highlighted it. I gotta go all the way back to the beginning of the chapter. Oh, no, I went all the way back to the beginning of the book.
Oh, no. You've got like 3 hours worth of content to get through now.
It is all the way. Thank you. Dead air. Can't have any dead air. That's not professional. But expectations were like fine pottery. The harder you held them, the more likely they were to crack. Bravo, Brando. I am so happy that so many of your readers thought that was so profound, so poetical and philosophical that they felt the need to highlight that and let me know that it was something to ponder. Good work. And
life is like a wine cellar. You don't know how valuable it was until you're drunk on the floor. I don't forget.
Life was like a vat full of mink. You never know what you're gonna get. What?
When you dip your toe in.
Yeah.
I don't friggin' know.
Life was like a city of bells. Really loud.
You don't know what you're gonna get until you're kidnapped and bled to death under the hospital.
That one,
while
yes.
a wizened old man sits by your bedside, waiting to see what your final words are, and if they're not satisfying, then he'll just kill another one.
It's weird, my lord. For some reason, the unmade made almost all of them say, "Please don't bleed me to death." It's uncanny. I've predicted 8 out of the next 10 will do the same. Well, I think that's an unfortunate note to end on, but a note we're going to end on. Thank you, my brother, for joining me for another The WoK of Kings.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. And as we close out, we will ponder how the most important step a man can take is the next one. Always the next one.